Hey guys, how's it going? Bahroo here, and today I have my OP8 rating guide. Yeah, I didn't decide to stop doing this. I'm actually going to complete it, I promise. So I'm doing a little bit something different with the editing, so that way this fight is not as boring to watch, because he is very boring. So we're going to go over our entire spec and gear while we're fighting him. So I guess first thing we need to do is go over the spec. So let's go ahead and bring that up on the screen. And there we go. So pretty much standard spec for Gaige. We're going to go into Anarchy first. Then we're going to go into Smaller, Lighter, Faster. Moving on to the next tier of skills, we're going to get 5 out of 5 Pre-Shrunk Cyberpunk, as well as on the next tier, we're going to go 5 out of 5 in Typecast Iconoclast. We're going to put 1 point into Discord, just on the off chance you accidentally reload. Then we're going to put the rest of the points into Annoyed Android and 1 point into Rational Anarchist. Now, you don't want to put any points into Death from Above because it is a really shitty skill, does no damage, and just wastes Anarchy stacks. You're not going to go into the with claws because its damage is bad. Not going to go into blood-soaked shields because that's not going to do anything because we're using a Rough Rider for this kill. Next is the claws for Death Trap. Not going to pick that up because we're never actually going to summon Death Trap in this kill. So the reason we're putting points into Annoyed Android is just to get into the nth degree, which will increase your damage very slightly, so that way if a ricochet happens to hit Yi, there's a small chance that maybe it'll hit the worm. So anyway, that is the ordered chaos tree. Now let's take a look at the Little Big Trouble tree. Alright, so now for Little Big Trouble, it's pretty basic. We're going to go into more peps, that way we have a higher chance to get the elemental damage procs. The reason for this is so that way when we switch to our grog, we get a little bit of extra damage over time healing, as well as increasing the chance for slag to apply. However, since this is multiplicative and not additive, the bonus is actually really small, so you could probably ignore it, but the problem is you really don't have anywhere else to put skill points. So, moving on from that, next one is Electrical Storm. This is actually not used at all. The reasoning for this is to just get to Shock and however you're supposed to pronounce that, and Electrical Burn. Now, for the Shock on reload, it's not for the damage. As you can probably tell, it's doing next to nothing. The reason you want to spec into this is it will help you with proccing Electrical Burn, which can give you a little bit of extra healing when you switch to your grog, and that's really it. So, if you have extra points, you can just throw them into there. And that's pretty much it. The problem with Gaige is that there's very few places you can actually put points to really do anything. But it does have some nice synergy with the Chain Lightning to get a little extra damage over time healing. So anyway, that's pretty much going to be it for Little Big Trouble. Guess we'll go ahead and look at the Best Friends Forever tree now. Okay, looking at the Best Friends Forever tree now. So the first two obvious skills in the first tier is going to be Cooking Up Trouble for some extra passive health regen, which can be used in between worms, although you'll probably be using grog plus Chain Lightning to get your healing. And then of course Close Enough, because you're going to inevitably miss some shots with 400 stacks of Anarchy. So you're going to need to pick those two up. Moving on to the second tier of skills, the only one that you're going to be picking up is going to be the Better Half. You're not going to go into the other two skills simply because Rough Rider is the best thing to use, because you want to increase your maximum health so that certain things do not kill you, like the acid pools on the ground, which hits you for a percentage of your base health, and yeah. So anyway, moving on to the third tier, we've got Unstoppable. Now, the reason we want to go into that is because, as you can see, it makes it really easy to dodge the worm spit and Gaige acid after getting a worm kill. Also, it will help with getting out of the acid as soon as the worm dies, which you will be able to see right here. Able to get out of the acid, stop taking damage, and the only thing you have to worry about is Gaige's axe, which, as long as you haven't hit health gate in recently, you won't have any issues with dying. It is extremely important that you make sure that you are not inside the acid when you get hit with one of his axes. The reason is that the damage over time from the pools that the worms drop ignore health gating, and if he hits you with the axe and then you get hit with the pool, you will immediately go down and have nothing to second wind off of, and your attempt, well, goes to shit. So anyway, moving on to the other one, we have Potent as a Pony, which I just sort of picked up because, well, why not? Extra maximum health always helps in this sort of a fight against Master Guy, which is awkward because every other boss fight wanted to lower your maximum health, but here you want it as high as possible so that way surviving the acid pools becomes much, much easier. And then finally, on the next tier of skills, we have Made of Sterner Stuff, which just gives a little bit of damage reduction. This is not like game changing at all, but it's just a little bit extra bonus, which is nice. And that's pretty much gonna wrap it up for the spec. Now let's go over the gear that we will be using. Alright, so our gear setup is pretty basic. We're going to be using, on our number 3 slot, the grog nozzle, which is kind of what we're going to be swapping in between with. Whenever you're not fighting a worm, you're going to be using your grog nozzle, so that way you don't die from Master Guy's axes, which will, at this point in the fight, always health gate you. And you can see the strategy for taking on these worms is pretty much the same. Get right up on them, slag them, then switch to the interfacer, which can easily be replaced by the conference call or possibly another shotgun of your choice, but definitely not slow hands. While it's a good shotgun, it simply won't work at close range. You can see the acid that they are spamming won't actually hurt you in melee range, so we just keep them slagged, use interfacer and hail. At the start of the fight, I used a shotgun ammo capacity relic, which you saw me swap out of. So we're pretty much going to be just doing that. The Norfleet is on there as a emergency, I need to get a second wind type deal, but you really don't want to use it for fighting worms, because with Gaige, unless you're using a sham, even with using a sham, it's just too risky to shoot a Norfleet because you more than likely will down yourself due to the inaccuracy of the blast. Once you see Guy puts up his immunity shield, just completely ignore it. You're not going to be using any sort of tactics that are going to actually utilize that. But for the most part, it's pretty much just rinse and repeat. The shield, as I've said, is going to be the Rough Rider shield. For our grenade mod, we're going to be using a chain lightning. You can also use a lightning bolt or any sort of on-demand heal. Fastball can also be used. Just anything that doesn't have a detonation time. It's quick to use and doesn't leave anything on the ground that might inadvertently kill you. For the relic, after you've used your shotgun relic, switch that out with a fire. It doesn't have to be a Bone of the Ancients. It can just simply be a fire relic. And that's pretty much going to be it on the gear. For our comm, you can see it's a legendary anarchist. It does not have to be legendary. It can just be a basic anarchist class mod. I'm just doing it for a little bit of extra damage, although it's, again, not really necessary. As you can see, the worms here can sometimes be a little annoying. with going into the ground at the worst possible time, but just take them out, have Guy walk into the acid pool, and you're pretty much done. So that's really going to wrap it up for the fight, guys. I hope you enjoyed this. Let me know if this sort of editing and stuff is, if you guys enjoy it, type stuff. Now, I was going to try and do a Norfleet blast here, but he ended up dying from dots. But, oh well. At least I got a Patriot. But yeah, guys, that's going to wrap it up. Don't forget to leave a like on the video if you enjoy this series. Don't forget to rate, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys later.